Hi everyone, welcome to Fuqua. My name is Howie Ree, and I'm the Managing Director for the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the Fuqua School of Business. I also have a secondary role here at Duke University as Managing Director of Alumni and Student Affairs here in the Duke Innovation and Entrepreneurship Initiative. This is a welcome video for you to give you some tips about what you should be thinking about before you come to Fuqua. A little bit of information about the program for entrepreneurs and some information about entrepreneurship programs at Duke and at Fuqua more generally. And so let's begin. So the first thing I want to mention is that I talk to many students each year, probably on the average of about 300 students a year. And give them career counseling about what they should be thinking about as they think about their job search. My take is a little bit different than some other career counselors, just because I kind of look through things from both a startup lens and a career lens. And so as you begin your MBAs, I wanted to give you some advice about what you should be thinking about. So the first thing I do is I ask a set of questions, and I'm going to ask you those right now here. The first question I ask is, first of all, which location do you want to end up in after you graduate from Fuqua? And specifically, I'm looking for which city you want to end up in. The reason for this is I want to help you narrow your search so that you realize that not all cities are created equal in terms of where you're going to end up. And especially if you have a particular industry in mind, you're probably going to find that there's a grouping of companies in certain cities that will make those cities more attractive. And it'll help you spend your time a little bit more wisely in terms of which cities you target in terms of visiting during fall break, spring break, winter break, or even where you might do your internship. The second question I ask is, what is your dream company to work for when you graduate from Fuqua? So the reason I ask this question is because in my own experience as a Fuqua alum, I actually went through the MBA program in 2004, loved it, and graduated in 2004. So I saw a lot of my classmates end up doing what happens at most business schools, which is that a lot of classmates spend a few years at one organization and then maybe switch over to another organization. And that's totally fine and reasonable. However, I noticed that some of my classmates actually ended up in their dream company right out of business school and have actually been there over the last 10 plus years. And I think it's really interesting to realize that you can and should aspire to work at your dream company upon graduating. And I think too many students don't realize that or think about that, and then therefore they just are kind of reacting to the opportunities that they see on campus or that they see in news articles or things like that. So my second question is, what is your dream company to work for when you graduate from Fuqua? The third question I have for you is, what is your dream role to have when you graduate from Fuqua? And I think it's important to start thinking about this early on, because if you're going to go for a product management role at a company, that's going to be very different than going for an operations role. And I know that for many of you, you're wanting to spend time learning about, say, operations and product management in the classroom. And I think that it's a good idea to get ahead of the curve and actually start to research those now and clarify them as much as you can before you get to school. The next thing I do when I'm talking with students is I ask those same questions about city, dream company, and dream role, but I ask about them 20 years into the future. So 20 years from now, picture yourself and you have a magical job offer to work in any city, at any company, in any role. I think it's important for you to explore what that might look like for you. I think for many of you, that'll be a daunting question. I don't know what city I'm going to want to live in 20 years from now. I don't know what company I'm going to want to work for. However, I think that it's an important thought exercise to have now. And the reason for that is I think that if you want to get somewhere 20 years from now and you're here in time, then the clearer you can be about where you want to be 20 years from now will help you make some decisions along the way that will help prepare you for that. So for example, if you want to be head of product at a large tech company, that's a great idea. And some of the things that you would need to prepare for might be to get a product management position now, to possibly learn coding skills, to maybe move to the San Francisco Bay Area if the large tech company you want to get to is based there. And it's nice to know what those decisions are in advance that would get you there. I will say this, that it's also completely fine to not know at all what it is you want to do 20 years from now. And in fact, there's definitely a role that serendipity and opportunity play here. Part of this exercise is just to have the thought experiment as to like where it is you want to end up, but not necessarily be tied to that and to be open to the opportunities that come between now and then. So that's my kind of career conversation in a nutshell, and I'm happy to talk with you all in person on the phone between now and when you get to campus, but also when you get to campus and even after you've graduated from Fuqua. That's one of the great things about Duke is the great support that we offer to our alumni going forward. So the next topic I want to cover is what should you do between now and when you come to campus? And this is the advice that I wish somebody had given to me before I started my MBA program starting in summer of 2002 at Duke. So I have 4 things that I'm going to suggest to you, and they actually tie in a little bit with what I just talked to you about with your career advice, the career advice that I've given you. So first of all is the pre-MBA internship. This is an unusual thing, and my guess is that most of you will have not considered a pre-MBA internship. But if you can spend 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks working at a company before you start your MBA, other than the company that you've been working at up until you applied to business school, I think it's an amazing opportunity to try something else out that you will get a couple more attempts to do in the MBA. For example, your summer internship, maybe doing something while you're in school, doing a remote internship. And just the pre-MBA MBA internship is it's such a great opportunity. It basically gives you a chance at a second summer internship. Which companies would I suggest you target for a pre-MBA internship? Well, this rolls back to my thoughts that I just shared with you. I think you should work in the city that you're thinking of going to after graduation. You should work at the company or a company similar to your dream company, and you should work in the role that you're thinking about. So imagine that right now you're an investment banker in New York City, but you think you want to end up in the Bay Area at a tech company as a product manager. Wouldn't it be great if you could work at one of the 10,000 companies in Northern California that might take you on as a short-term intern? Perhaps you work there for 4 weeks this summer. Perhaps you continue to work there remotely during the school year. Lots of different options there. So the pre-MBA internship is something that I've seen other MBA students use very effectively to give them a foothold, for example, in the venture capital industry. They did one of my students did an 8-week venture capital pre-MBA internship. And that worked very well for him for getting further venture capital opportunities throughout his MBA. And whenever I introduced him to somebody, I was able to say, listen, this person who I'm introducing you to, one of the interesting things they've done is they worked at such and such venture capital firm. And that's always a great kind of way to connect people. And it's a great thing for you to be able to say as well. So the second thing I want to cover is if you're thinking about starting a company during your MBA, which I know many of you are considering, then there are a few things I think you should consider doing before you come to school. So first of all, if you have an idea, here's a few things to do. One is that you should start talking to customers now. And I think that a great benchmark for you is one that Duke alum David Cummings shared with me. David Cummings is an entrepreneur in Atlanta. He's also an investor in Atlanta. And he sold his company Pardot for $100 million a few years back. He's got some great writings about entrepreneurship. You should definitely check out his blog. And one of his tests for entrepreneurs is find 10 customers that love this product that you're talking about or service that you're talking about so much that if you were to go back to them and say, listen, I've decided not to pursue this company, that they would actually say, wow, that's really disappointing because we were really looking forward to what it is you were going to look at. So what it is you were working on. So find 10 customers that love the product so much that they would be disappointed if you didn't go forward with it. I think there's a lot of conversations right now about going out and talking to customers, and that's a great thing to do. You should definitely do that. And the interesting thing about the 10 customer metric that David is looking for is that it kind of puts a goal in mind as to, not just going out and talking to 50 people and saying, oh, that's good, I talked to 50 people, but actually getting to a set of customer validation that you can actually say, hey, I think we might have something here. The second thing I would suggest you do is to start to read the information that I'm about to send you here and that I'm going to show you here in this video. There's a bunch of articles that we suggest you read here, including articles about the lean startup, business model canvas, things like that. And so right here on the screen are a number of those links, and I'm going to make sure that this is populated with kind of some of the great stuff out there in entrepreneurship. There's so much out there in entrepreneurship. I mean, thousands and thousands of articles and blog posts and things that people put, and we've just kind of distilled a few dozen of them for you here. So definitely check out some of these resources. And then the third thing that I'll say for you if you're starting a company is put yourself out there. So I think by now most of you have been invited to the Facebook group where we connect students in your class and across Duke that are interested in entrepreneurship. And now's a good time to put yourself out there and to say, hey, everybody, I'm thinking of starting such and such company. I would love to chat with anybody interested in maybe working with me on that kind of company. And here are the particular skill sets I'm looking for, a programmer or a finance expert or an engineer or, what have you. So now's a great time to start to put yourself out there, just because once the first year of your MBA starts, you're just going to be so busy. You're so busy that you're just not going to have time to do exploratory conversations like that. So those are a few thoughts for you that are for those of you that are thinking of coming in to start a company while you're in business school. So the next thing I want to discuss is around career. So it's basically what are the next steps for things you should think about with respect to career, especially as you're thinking about startups. So many of you are considering, well, I could work at a big company like an investment bank or a big product management, consumer packaged good company like Procter & Gamble, or a big consulting company like McKinsey. But you also have an idea in the back of your mind of, well, maybe if the right startup opportunity comes up, I might take that. And so I want to give you some tips as to how to actually act on that and come up with something that fits in with your larger model of your career search, including the big companies, but kind of focuses you in terms of which startups might be a fit for you. Just because there's so many startups out there. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of startups out there. So I've got 3 suggestions for you for your job search as it relates to startup companies or startup-like companies. So the first thing is to read this article by Andy Ratcliffe. Andy is a professor at Stanford GSB, and he has this great article about basically finding mid-sized companies with momentum and using mid-sized companies with momentum as a career launching platform for you. So what does he mean by this? Well, essentially, his argument is in part based on a conundrum that a student of his faced in 2007 when they had offers at big companies and they had an offer at a small company at the time called Facebook. And so part of Andy's argument is that joining Facebook was the right move at that time in 2007 because a lot of people were just expecting it to just go on a rocket ship of growth. And wouldn't it be great to have a seat on that rocket ship? This has kind of been popularized by saying that some people say, which is when somebody offers you a seat on when somebody offers you a spot on a rocket ship, you don't ask what seat, you just get on the rocket ship. And so Andy's done a great job over the years of kind of refreshing this list of over 100 companies, which are mid-sized companies with momentum. And it's just a great, interesting way to think about which startups might be of interest to you. I think to say this another way, it's to be picky about which startups you think about joining after business school. So the second thing I would recommend is a very high quality job search spreadsheet. So there's a lot of ways to organize your job search. I've seen all sorts of methods from, just kind of a simple Word document to, very detailed spreadsheets. The other thing I want to mention, the third thing is that if you're interested in startups, you should go onto AngelList, angel.co. And there are two portions of AngelList that I think you should focus on. One is angel.co/locations. And the way this works is you can filter down to the city, again, that you're targeting, and you can start to see the companies that are on AngelList in your target city. For example, just to give you some numbers, on AngelList in Northern California, there are about 24,000 startups and other companies on AngelList. In Southern California, there's over 10,000 companies. In New York City, there's over 10,000 companies. AngelList is just a great way for you to pretty quickly get a lay of the land for different cities and what kinds of companies are in those cities. The other part of AngelList that I would suggest you go to is angel.co/markets. So this is a listing of AngelList, which shows you which companies are in which markets. So for example, if you're interested in financial tech, fintech, you can go onto AngelList, look at their fintech listings, and find the over 1,000 companies that list themselves as fintech companies. If you're interested in healthcare IT, if you're interested in clean energy, there's all sorts of different market-based listings here. And I think that this is just a really interesting way for you to get a lay of the land as to what are the companies that are innovating in the cities and the markets that you're interested in. And in order to put all of these thoughts together, I would recommend that you go through these lists on AngelList and lists like it that you can find yourselves, and just start to go through company by company and keep on going until you find a list of about 50 companies that you see as being companies that you might want to work at. So target companies and then organize those in the job search spreadsheet that I mentioned earlier.